All right then. Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for dialing in for today's webinar. I am Shivam and I am from Team ZapScale. We're the easiest and fastest customer success platform for B2B SaaS businesses. And today we're going to be hosting a very interesting session on how to set up customer health in 30 minutes with ZapScale. And to enlighten you on this, we have Manasij Ganguli, who is the founder and CEO of ZapScale. Now, I cannot wait for Manasij to take you through this amazingly insightful webinar. But before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You will have the opportunity to submit questions to Manasij. Please, if you have any questions, please put them up in the Q&A section of your Zoom control panel. And if you want to just chat generally or express your opinion, please use the chat box. I will bring up the questions at the end of the webinar. Also, if you prefer speaking than asking the questions via text, please raise your hand and I will let you speak and ask questions directly from Manasij. Now let's get the customer success nerd to the stage. Manasij, over to you.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet all of you guys on this webinar. I know it's like 8 p.m. on a Wednesday evening, middle of the week. There are some complications with being in a CS in the middle of the week for sure. So I appreciate all of you guys coming in. In this webinar, I'm going to walk you guys through customer health and how we can actually, with absolute data sciences, nail down the customer health and how they can use it for figuring out which customer is likely to churn, which customer is likely to upsell, and focus our attentions on that. So I'll be sharing my screen and walking you through the presentation. And if you guys can hold on to your questions till the end of the webinar, that would be fabulous. Use the chat window and the question answer window for any interactions. We will be taking those up in the right moment. So here I go. I'm going to share my screen and walk you through our content today. All right, so here we go. Customer success, as we know, is pretty hard. And here I am going to talk about customer success. I am a full-time hobbyist and a part-time entrepreneur. I am big time into running half marathons. Here you can see me cycling up to the Khardungla Pass, which is the highest road on the planet. It's like 18,000 feet, almost 2/3 the height of Everest. I'm also into paragliding. This is me paragliding. If you squint your eyes, you can probably see me here. This is me delivering a TED talk in the town of Bhilwara. I also drum for a band. I'm a drummer. And I also wrote a book about my last startup. It's called The Economy Class Founder. And very soon it will become a Netflix series as well. So it is a bit about me. Of course, now I'm running my second startup. I built and sold my first one. My current startup is called ZapScale. It is a customer success solution for B2B SaaS companies. Now, we very well know that the objective of customer success is to reduce churn, retain customers, and increase the upsells. But for whatever we do, we must have a very strong insight about the customers who are using our solutions. So therefore, health becomes a very important indicator for figuring out. So let us look today at how are we going to derive health. And I'm going to start from medical sciences because medical sciences have done amazingly well in terms of capturing our health and letting us live longer and healthier. So I'm going to give you a very quick 5-minute rejoinder on how medical science solves health, and then I'll bring it to customer success, and I'll show you some numbers and figures, and we will do some a little bit of math together to actually nail down this whole thing scientifically and absolutely without any ambiguity. So I always believe that customer success is a digital healthcare where our job is basically as physicians, to take care of our customers and not let them die, which is churn. So if you look at your business, you will have many customers, and your many customers will have many users. The way we want to look at this, eventually we want to come to a point where all the customers' health, we can figure out if they're good, bad, or ugly. And inside any customer, we can peer in and see if the users are also, healthy or unhealthy. Now, some of you people may have heard my talk on July 22nd, which is just a couple of days back, where we hosted the largest customer success event in India. The first few slides are basically, a repeat of that. But it will be very quickly we'll go to the crux of the entire piece, which is how we can do mathematics and analysis of the customer health from that perspective. So, okay, we want to eventually view something like this, that, okay, tell me that out of all your customers, how are they using your product? How is their ticketing health looking like? How is their feature request health looking like? And how is their billing and invoice and all of these healths look like? So this is the overall structure that we want to get to. But it's not easy to get to this question. So let me start from the customer success part, that because our customers are different sizes and they're different stages, we need to first segment them and of course find out what the hell is health when we say, what we need to look at customer health at the first place. So it's very important to understand that perspective. So these all are the things that we need to worry about in this particular discussion. Let me change my pen color to something which is more useful. All right, so moving on, we would like to learn from the world of medicine to figure out if we can draw some parallels. So let's say we have a bunch of cities and we want to find out, which city the population is in best health. How do we find this? Well, first of all, look into any population. The first thing we should do is segment them into men and women, which is what we have done here. It's quite simple. And then next step is to, of course, segregate them into different age groups, because different age groups have different health requirements. So we should definitely segregate them into separate age groups. And then make postulates. So what if a person is healthy only when their hearts are healthy, their kidneys are healthy, and their livers are healthy, right? This is what we should do. Then we can make some postulates that, what a person should have: good blood pressure, good cholesterol, good bilirubin, good urea levels for different organs. This is the health, how we define for a person. And then, of course, we can choose any one segment. For example, we can choose, and then apply the semantics and then apply it to the whole other segments as well. So let's look into one segment. For example, if I choose, let's say, all the women in this 20s, and if we measure their blood pressure, we will find that 68% people lie in the first interval of statistical importance. This is the mean of all the people. 68% people would be in this range, which is the fair range, the average range. Some of them would be in the extremities of the sides. And then the last 2%, 3 sigma ones are the ones who are the extreme results, who are either too low or too high in any segment. Now, this is the common bell curve that we all know. We all get appraised in the bell curve every year, so we know that piece. The thing is, if we measure it over a period of time, you will see that people who occupy the extremities, they actually tend to die out faster. So that tells us that, okay, certain numbers, like these are the places, if you score here in blood pressure, you are unhealthy, you will die out sooner. This is exactly how we have devised the healthcare for human beings, where we have put them into statistical mean, and we've taken the extremities to figure out who are unhealthy and who are healthy. And that's how we have arrived at the healthcare numbers for each of these KPIs. And we know the exact science and math, which always tells us who is healthy and who is unhealthy. But that is giving us the first leg of the answer of one person. Now we have to answer for a whole city and multiple cities. The problem is all these cities have different populations, right? So how do we go about solving for different populations? Should we segment them all together? Should we put them into one? How do we go about doing this? Well, for doing that what we do is the medical science, what it says is that, you should actually convert every city into an individual person. Take a representative person who represents the entire statistical health of all the cities put together. And that is when you can compare one person who's a representative of that city across the entire cityscape and figure out which city is doing good, bad, ugly. So how do we do that? It's very simple. Take up an age group, and then sum up all their BP measurements and make an average. So now you have an average measurement of Bangalore, Mumbai, all the cities right here. And now you can very clearly see that in the 20 age group, Delhi has the highest blood pressure, and the chilled out city is Bangalore. All right, so this is what you do. And then finally, you do it for all the age groups. And your overall city average for blood pressure is the average of all of these put together, which comes out right here. So you can see it right here. Then I've color coded them for red, yellow, green, which is our customer success favorite color, right? Now, if we take the same data point and put them into percentiles. At this moment, Delhi will occupy the lowest percentile because it is the unhealthiest city. And Bangalore will be the healthiest percentile because it is the healthiest city. So this is exactly the same structure here. You see, Bangalore is at the 100th percentile. Nobody is better than Bangalore. The second best city is Mumbai. Third best city is Hyderabad. Then fourth is Calcutta. And then finally, Delhi is doing the worst in terms of blood pressure measurement. This is just one KPI. Now do this for all the heart KPIs, cholesterol and heart health, exactly same structure. And then if you average it, you get the heart health for all the cities. And then you do the same thing for liver and kidney and average the entire thing out. You get the overall health of every city in percentiles and color codes. That's exactly the structure which medical sciences does. This is how medical science can tell you which city is the healthiest. It looks into the KPIs, it looks into the age groups, and then finds it out. So this is a structure which we all know. This is something nothing new, but I wanted to put it together because this builds our context for the next phase of our discussion. So let's just retrace our steps just in a moment. We started with the population. We categorized them into segments of men and women and various age groups. Then we decided that, okay, there are certain KPIs which are postulates for health. Then we measured every KPI and found out that the bottom percentiles are the basically sick ones. Then we took out individual one representative from all the cities, who is the statistical average of all the cities, all the healthcare. And then we aggregated that to get to the eventual healthcare. This is the structure which science follows, medical science follows to get us to the point where we can find out which city is healthy. Now, if you ask yourself, how is this relevant to customer success? The same problem which we see as well. We want to know the overall health of our business by knowing the health of all our customers. And each customer has different number of users. This is exactly like Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Chennai, and Bangalore having different number of people living there. And we have to find out the overall health of that. It's the exact same problem. So we need to follow the exact same structure so that we can derive this exact same semantics and come to the same conclusion of figuring out the overall health of my customers and my users. So here we go. How do we go about doing this? So yes, we have many customers who have many users. And if I look into any one customer, what do? My one customer has a bunch of users who are using your SaaS product every day. So there's a product usage which we need to measure. These users are doing certain activities through which they are deriving the business outcomes that your product is promising them. So we definitely therefore look into business outcomes from products. Business outcomes is different from product usage. You might be using the product very heavily, but you might not be getting outcomes. So we will discuss these two things as different KPI metrics, of course. Then, of course, we need to look into the various other touch points that customers have with us. Our customers will log tickets with us, so we need to look into ticketing health. Our customers write us emails, talk to us on Slack or Intercom. So the comms we need to definitely look into. Our customers hopefully make payments to us on time or whatever it is. We need to therefore look into their payments and subscription health. And we need to look into the feature requests that the customers are requesting from us. These are 4 peripheral data points which we must capture into customers' health because it's extremely important. These are peripheral apps. So you might be using a CRM or a ticketing application like Zoho or Freshdesk or Zendesk or Jira for doing ticketing and also feature request management. You might be using a Gmail or an Intercom or Slack for your comms and emails. You might be using like Stripe or Zoho Books or ChargeBee or Razorpay for your payments, and these are peripheral applications. So we definitely need to look into their health. And of course, we need to look into the upsell possibility because it's a very important indicator of health. A customer whose health is good should have a good upsell possibility as well. So we should look into that. And we should never ignore the intuition of human beings. So we must incorporate the CS team's hand feel about the customer. How you guys feel about your customer is an important data point. So all of these things we need to capture. And I'm going to discuss all these 40 KPIs, 5 KPIs for product usage, KPIs for product outcomes, then KPIs for ticketing, KPIs for communications, KPIs for payments, KPIs for feature request, upsell, and of course, your gut feel. We will do the whole math and science of this together in this call in the next 20 minutes or so. And we'll basically make sure that when you leave this meeting, you have a clear mathematical perspective of how we can derive health from each of these segments. Great. So let's get moving. The health end objective is that once we score all of these things, all these KPIs, they should give me a score for product usage for my customer. They should give me a product outcome score for my customers. It should give me a ticketing score. I should get an email tracking score, payment subscription score, a feature request score, your upsell score, and of course your hand feel score, which will overall give me the health of every customer and every user of your product. This is what we are finally looking to do. So once we do it for one customer, we will do it for all the customers, and then eventually we will get to the entire business. That is our holy grail in this particular discussion. So let's get started into it. First step, as we did in our in our city story, we must segment the customers and the users. So let's look into our customers. Imagine you have 5 customers. Okay, I'm sure you have more than that, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to work with 5 customers or a sample set, because it is easy for us to math to be built around a smaller set in a limited time like this. So imagine you have 5 customers. All right, great. How do I go about doing this? Step number 1, let us absolutely first segment them into 2 different categories. Customers who are trialing are going to be in one segment, and customers who are steadily using are going to be in another segment. Why? Because the trialing customers will definitely exhibit a different kind of behavior than people who are steadily using for a very long time. We should not compare a newly born with somebody who is 50 years in age. Exactly what we did in the healthcare segment. We segmented them based on the number of years they have lived. Here, we're doing the exact same thing by segregating them by the life cycle stage that they are with you. So it could be trialing, onboarding, steady, or you could have multiple of them. I have just chosen just 2, just for simplicity's sake. You can have 3, 4 life cycle stages. You must segregate the customers into those segments. Great, let's move on. Step number 2 is, once we have done it for the customers, let's just look into the users. Now, you have a bunch of users for each of these customers, and they will have different roles. I have color coded them here in 2 different colors, just because it is easy for us to discern in that case. So now I have 2 kinds of roles, let's say, in your SaaS product. So your users of your customers can take either a user role 1 or user role 2. Now ask yourself, can I compare a blue user role with a pink user role? The answer is no, because your product will have different functionalities for these 2 roles. So therefore, we must segregate the user roles as well. So now once we have also segregated the user roles, we get a view like this. We have segregated the customers into steady and trial. And now we have, inside those buckets, we have made a further segregation of user roles of similar kinds in similar places. Now, if you see here, these are all users of steady customers of a similar role. They can be compared. It is exactly like all the men in 20 years or less age group. They can be compared amongst each other, right? That's exactly where we will start our entire proceedings. So let us say we take one such group and then build the health for that. Then we will apply the same semantics for all the other groups and average it out to get the entire story. That is exactly what we did in the healthcare segment for medicine for cities. That's the exact same thing we're going to do for the healthcare for your users and your customers as well. Great. So now we have looked into, this is my sample set. All the discussion I'm going to do right now here from here onwards is assuming that I am looking into one set of all customers who are steady and all the users who are of similar role. Therefore, they can be compared to each other. That's the first point that we must keep into our minds. Great. Now let's move on to the next stage, where we start discussing the KPIs and the math around it. Now, again, imagine that you have a bunch of steady customers and users, and these are the KPIs we're going to deal into. The first thing that we're going to deal into is the usage paradigm. So we're going to discuss about the customer's product usage. What determines that a user is a good user? Now, as we did in our healthcare in the medicine, we're going to make certain postulates, and these postulates are going to be our healthcare determinant. And then we will do some math and stats around it in just a moment. So every time I show you a KPI, I will show you its postulate. And if that postulate is true for your business, we should imbibe that, inculcate that, and use that for calculating the customers and the users' health. So here are the three important KPIs. Let us look into them one by one. The first KPI for usage is time spent on the product. And here I'm going to make a assessment, a KPI. Most important postulate is that a time spent KPI should say that a successful user spends more time on your product consistently. So there are two keywords: spends more time and spends it consistently. And let's unpack this with an example. Imagine you have two users, user 1 and user 2. And these two users over the last 5 days have spent this many minutes on your product. They both average exactly 31.6 minutes on your product. Now we have eased into a little bit of mathematics, very simple, but averages. So the question is, okay, if I look into spending more time, then both of these users are equally good and equally bad because their average time spent is exactly the same. Now, the question is, among these two users, which one is a better one? Now, the average is unable to determine the winner. So therefore, we must look into the second piece, which is the consistency. Now, if I just draw these two users' usage over a graph, what we can see is, though these two users have the exact same mean value, which means the average time they're spending on the product is exactly the same. But if you plot it, you will see this user is all over the place, and this user is very, very consistent. This user is like Rahul Dravid, who is constantly scoring in every game, and this user is pretty much like Saurav Ganguli, right? Good in some games, poor in other games. So who is better? I would always argue that people who are more consistent are better. So now we therefore need to mate these two particular viewpoints together to find a combined health score. So how are we going to do about doing this? All right, so let's find out the consistency piece. If you take a standard deviation of these data points, standard deviation tells you, are they too much separate from each other, or are they consistent and uniform in nature? You will see that this user standard deviation is 11.6, which is pretty high. And this user, who is very, very consistent, their standard deviation is only 1.8. So great, we can very clearly see that we should always look into the mean and also the standard deviation to figure out the absolute usage and also the consistency. So how do I bring those two things to home? So here what we're going to do. We're going to do is a combined score of mean, average, minus standard deviation. We want the average to be high and we want the standard deviation to be low. So this score should be high for any user to be a good, consistently high performing user on my product in time spent. So it's exactly what we have done. If you do mean minus standard deviation, you will see that this user, the second user, scores way above the first user. They are using the product equally in terms of average, but they are more consistent and therefore they are the better users. If your product requires the same kind of semantics, that you want your users to be using the product highly with also good consistency, you should definitely measure both of these two things. It's so important that you measure them together and therefore have the combined effect of both of these together. Great. So now we have come to a point where we've seen the entire data set. We have taken an average, we have taken the consistency, and we have figured out the average and the consistency together and found out the score which is the composite score. Now what we do is we agree, let us say we decide that the user who scores maximum is 100. If they are the 100, then what is the score for the other user? The other user scores at 69. It is a percentile breakup. Now we break them up into percentiles, exactly like in the bell curve, where the lowest percentiles are the problematic ones. We again break them into percentiles, and the lowest percentiles will get awarded a red score. The mid percentiles will get awarded a yellow score, and the high percentiles will get awarded a green score. So we are immediately able to build the entire graph the way we want to build it. Great. So now we have got the time spent understood. We have looked into their average usage and consistency and answered that question. So that's how you get the time spent score for every user. Now, once you get for every user, the average score for the customer is the average of both of these scores put together. So you take all the users inside a customer of similar role, find out their scores for this and average it out to get the overall time score, time spent score, KPI score for this particular case. That is our first KPI, right? And it takes time to explain the first KPI. The others will be really fast from here. Great. So now we have understood this. Let's go to the next KPI, which is pages visited. We would want, again, the postulate is here. We would want a successful user to visit more of my product pages and do it more consistently. Again, if this is postulate you agree with, which most of the SaaS companies agree with, in that case, we should follow the exact same parameter. We should again look into all the users, find out their average, and then again look into their standard deviations to find out their consistency, and therefore score a final score, which is standard deviation and consistent mean put together, and then use that data point exactly like we had done in the previous KPI, score them on a score of on a scale of 100, and give them a color code. For the laggards, people who are doing in the poorest percentiles will get a red. People who are doing the top percentiles will get a green. That's the structure again. And that's how we get to the page visited score for every user. As you can see, one user was 22.05, other was 100, and their average is 61. 22 plus 100 divided by 2 is 61, right? So this is my customer level score. This is my individual user level score for this particular KPI, as we can see. So we are starting to build our story. We have now have two KPIs. For each of the KPIs, we have gotten user level scores. For each of the KPIs, we've also got a customer level score. Moving on to the next part, which is percentage of unique features used. Here it is very simple. The KPI's postulate is that a successful user uses more features of the product than an unsuccessful user. You would want your user to use most of what you have built, which means they've adopted the features and they're using it right. So what is the scoreline here? It's actually very simple. Here, there is no consistency question. We just look into the number of features they use, every user uses, divide by the total number of feature set for that user group, and find a percentage score for that. And then over a period of time, I've chosen a week here for ease, average it out, and the higher score here wins, which means on an average, this user U2 is covering 72.8% of your product features. And on an average, this user U1 covers only 55.6% of your product features. So it's very clear that user number 2 is a better user because they are adopting more features in this particular KPI perspective. Again, we take the base of 100 and put a percentile score around it. Again, in this case, because everything is already scored in 100, it's percentage, so we don't need to do anything. We just use it as it is, and then just give them a percentile score. So now we have the feature use score as well, because we have got the percentage. For every user, we've got the score, which averaged out gives me the score for this particular customer. And that brings us to the entire usage success position. I have got all the users scored and color coded, which now if I put average, I get every user's individual score for product usage, average all the three KPIs out, which is time spent, pages visited, and features used, gets you that this particular user U1 is not doing good, U2 is doing pretty good. And the average of this customer is the average of all these users put together, which is doing at a score of 67, which is the customer one's score for usage on your product. This is the mathematical breakdown of product usage. As simple as this. So we have now covered the product usage piece. Now let's look into the next two pieces. Next piece is outcomes. Now outcomes are things that you would want your users to derive from your product, values that you would want your users to derive. And these values could be anything. These values could be, for example, a successful customer should complete 4 report downloads per day, or a successful customer should complete a use case in like 60 seconds. And if a customer A completes instead of 4 report downloads, they only do 2, then this customer will get a 2 upon 4, only 50% score. And if a use case is completed in 60 seconds, it takes 120 seconds to complete. It's twice the amount of time. Again, they will get a 50 score for this particular outcome. So you can define these outcomes for your business. I'm not getting into the outcomes because each of you have a different business. Think about the job to be done here. JTBD framework it's called. Figure out what job they need to do and find a mathematical number based on which you can basically figure out and compare the users. So again, let's say you can have multiple outcomes, 1, 2, 3, 4, number of report downloads, number of leave requests done, percentage ROI, number of, let's say, if you're a logistics company, number of bookings done. If you're an HR tech company, number of percentage of attendance people are marking directly. You can have all of these KPIs come, and then you can compare them, score them, and that's how the best user is somebody who's driving more outcomes. You can score them in percentages and then just average it out. The highest one would always win. And that's what you do for outcomes. And that's how we do for every outcome. This is something which you can build on ZapScale. I'll show it to you just in a moment. And then you define your outcomes for every user level, and the average of all the users of that customer is the overall outcome score for a particular customer. That's how you define the outcomes. So now we have product usage and product outcomes covered. This is the part where we bid adieu to the product and we start looking into the peripheral part of your data, which is going to come from ticketing solution, your feature request solution, your payment solution, and your comms and everything else. So the product part is covered, where we look into usage. High usage, high consistency is the winner. And outcomes is where you define what outcomes people require from your business, and you can score them, and we can average it out for giving a customer score for the entire piece. Great. So now let's look into the peripherals. Let's look into ticketing, emails, payments, and feature requests, and just quickly go through that process. So first up is ticket tracking. So in ticket tracking, we need to look into 4 KPIs here. All right. And let me just quickly point out every KPI. Here in this case, these KPIs are going to be calculated on a monthly basis. So we will look back 30 days. It's a rolling 30 days. So today, if we start, today 26th July, we will start from 26th of June. In the last 30 days, we will calculate the data for today's score and then keep on aggregating that every day. So ticket log is a very important case. Think about this. Why are users logging tickets? Is it because that they're suffering from traffic outside? Or is it because they're not happy with their mother-in-law? The answer is no, because they have some discomfort with their product. So if I have to figure out what is a good ticket volume that a customer should log, we should always compare that with the amount of time they have spent on the product. A good customer would log less tickets per hour of product use. Because if I don't look into the per hour of product use, I don't know if 5 tickets are good, or 7 tickets are good, or 10 tickets are good, or 2 tickets are good. I would argue that a customer is best if they're using your product every day heavily and not logging any tickets, which means they're not facing any issues, but they're using your product. They're the best customers. So we must therefore always look into the number of hours your customers have used the product and compare the amount of tickets that they have raised based on that. Let me take an example and give it to you. Imagine you have 2 customers, C1 and C2. And over the last 4 weeks, they have both logged 40 tickets in total. Okay, you can see the week-on-week ticket log, number of tickets logged here, but where they have both logged exactly 40 tickets. Now, some people will argue that they are equally good and equally bad. Assume all the tickets here are of similar priority, right? Now, I would say that that's not correct. We must always see that these 40 tickets are raised based on the base of hours of usage of what. So here we see this. So if I see this now, customer 1 raised 40 tickets with 145 hours of product usage, and customer B has logged 40 tickets at 131 hours of product usage. Clearly, customer 1 has used the product more for logging the same number of tickets, which means they have per unit discomfort, which is lesser than the next customer. So what we do here is we just take a ticket rate, which is the number of tickets they are logging per hour of product usage. And here the lowest score will win the day. So what we do is we take the lowest score, we again take a percentile out of it, and then award a score based on that. So we are doing a very scientific, mathematical, objective analysis of why tickets are being raised and taking a base of usage to basically arrive at why this particular score is good, bad, or ugly. If that's the case for your business, and you agree with this, keep this KPI switched on our product, and it will give you the exact same results. Similarly, if you look into ticket resolved, here our postulate is very simple. I think everybody would agree here that a successful customer has less unresolved tickets. They have most of their tickets resolved by our lovely support team. So here all we need to do is figure out the percentage of tickets that our support team is resolving for them over a month time, take an average, and the higher resolution percentage wins the day, because which means that whatever tickets they log, our support team closed it for them. So they should be pretty happy with our support performance and our ticketing performance compared to somebody who has less tickets resolved, right? That's the very simple part of it, which is exactly what you see here. So we take the mean of percentage of ticket resolved. Again, if you see, I'm taking percentage so that I can compare one customer against another. I'm not taking the absolute value, because absolute values not make sense. I may have one customer with the small customer, the other customer could be very large. But when you talk about percentage, the large and small kind of melts into one, and you can compare them like for like. And that's the whole objective and beauty of mathematics, which allows us to do this entire piece. So here we can compare this and figure out what looks good. So that's our ticket, percent resolve score. Then the third KPI is, less priority one tickets. The priority one tickets are the hardest tickets to solve in the, and the worst tickets for customers, because that actually stops their work on your product. So the postulate here is that a successful customer must log less priority one tickets in the entire ticket that they have logged. So here what we do is we look into the contribution of percentage of priority one tickets. And if a customer shows low contribution of priority one tickets, they are doing better than somebody else who is showing high number of priority one tickets in terms of percentage contribution. So it's very simple to do here. We can just average it out. You can see that customer number one is putting 9.25% tickets as priority one. Customer number two is giving 12% tickets as priority one. So surely we can assume that customer number two is more heavily impacted by the showstopper priority one tickets, and therefore they are more unhappy than customer one is concerned. So that's how you stratify, and that's how you figure out the contribution of priority one tickets in the overall health of a customer. And the last piece is, if your business is such that your end users can directly log tickets with you, you would want to see less number of users logging tickets, which means that not everybody is infected, but only a small percentage of your users may be aggravated. If everyone in your user space is logging tickets, that's really bad news, which means people are not happy with your product. So again, we look into the percentage of users in your customer space who have logged tickets, and here the lowest score will win, because which means that less number of users of this customer are aggravated and logging tickets with you. So you can know the overall happiness sentiment of the ticketing by looking into this particular case. Here, the lowest score wins the day, and that's how we get the score for this KPI. Now we have got all the 4 KPIs for ticketing for one customer, which gives us the overall ticketing score for one customer by averaging all the KPIs, which were these, average them out and get the overall ticketing score that we wanted. Same thing, now we go into emails now. So we're now going to quickly move from here. In the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we'll complete the entire picture and then take questions. Second thing is communications. Here we want to know that, okay, among all our customers who are communicating with us frequently and in good touch with us, they may have a poor usage, they may have a poor ticketing, they have something else, but their comms are good or not. See, when we talk about these KPIs, please know we are following exactly the medical science principle. You may have a good heart health, but you may be a smoker, which means that your lung health would be poor. So separate them out, look at them separately, and then put them together to figure out the overall health. So now here we have looked into ticketing, we have looked into product usage, we looked into outcomes, we now look into communications. Here, the postulate is a successful customer will communicate with you more, and again, more and more consistently. So again, we take the average of the number of communications, and again, we look into the standard deviation. And again, we find the composite score where we would want high number of communications and high consistency, which means lower standard deviation. And thereby we can find out which customer is doing good, bad, and ugly in our position. That's the combination score. Second is we would want our customer to be in touch most recently, so that we know that yes, they are engaged with us very much in the near past, rather than we have not spoken to them for a long time. Here what we do is we look at the number of days that you have talked to the customer and subtract 100 from that number. The whole postulate is if you have spoken to the customer recently, that score will come up high. If you have spoken to them long time back, that score will come low. And again, because everything we're doing on a unit or 100 basis, this 100 makes the entire thing look very clear that yes, which customer is in touch with us more sooner than later. Right. So this is how the whole structure of the email and com tracking look like. That gives us the email and com tracking for a customer by averaging out the scores of each of these KPIs. Then we go to payment tracking. In payment, we basically make three very simple postulates. Number one, a successful customer pays on time, which is very simple. So what we do is we look into all the payments the customer was supposed to make. And then we say out of all the payments the customers have made, how many payments came full and on time. And we can just take a percentage of that. The highest percentage is the one who will win. They have paid most of your invoice full and on time. And that's what the winner here is. It's as simple as this. Second thing is, the customer must pay in full, which means they should not have, delinquencies in payments. Again, the most number of invoices cleared in full wins. Here, if you see this customer has paid 3 out of 4 invoices full. This customer has paid only 1 out of 3 invoices full. So their full payment score is only 33%. This one's is 75%. So of course, no, there's no amazing science behind it. It's very simple. The guy who has paid you more full every time is the winner here. And that's how they get better score. And that's how you get your score for this. And the last one is that we should not have 90 days plus overdue payments, because that's when your finance team starts to put them into bad debt category. So we look into all the payments you're supposed to make and find out the percentage contributions of payments that are 90-day plus overdue. The lesser of them, the better, which means this customer is paying everything below 90 days. And that's what we would like to see here. So here, the one who scores lower in terms of number of payments stuck in 90 days plus wins the day for you. And averaging all of these out gives you the overall payment score. The last part is the feature request. It is very important to look into. Customers are like kids. They will ask for more and more features from us. So what do? We look into the feature fitment. Now, what is a feature fitment here? Imagine two cases, right? Imagine a customer one has requested a total of 7 features in the last 1 month. And customer 2 has requested 6 features over the last 1 month. Now, if I ask you a question, which customer is happier? It seems that customer 2 who has logged 6 feature requests is happier because they have logged less feature requests. Hang on a second, that may not be correct, by the way. Let's look into some more data. So this customer 1 is asking for 7 new features. They're currently using 70 features on your product. Okay. And customer number 2 has asked for 6 new features, but they're using only 25 features on your product. So what does that mean? It means that customer number 1 is in need of 70 plus 7, 77 total features. And customer number 2 is in need of 6 plus 25, 31 total features. That will make sure that they can do all the work on your product completely. Now, are both of these things same? The answer is no. One is I need 77 features, I am getting 70. The other is I need 31 features, I need 25. So they are not similar. So let's see what percentage of their needs we are satisfying today, which is called the feature fitment. So we can see very clearly that customer number 1 requires 77 features. We are providing 70 of them today to them, which means they're 91% feature fit with me. They are getting 91% of what they actually want from my product in my product. And compared to that, customer number 2 is getting only 81%. So customer number 2 is actually more aggravated because 20% of what they need is not there. So even though they have logged just 6 features, it means 20% incompleteness for them. So we should therefore look into the customer's fitment score and find the ones which have the highest fitment score, and they are healthier with you. The customers who are getting most of the features valued from you, and they're using them, is basically the customer which is doing good. So we are now looking into feature usage and comparing that with the number of features they want more on top of it, and then comparing these as the parameters rather than just looking at number 7 and 6, which is the incorrect way of looking at it. So that gives you the feature fitment. The final KPI is, it's a no-brainer that a successful customer will have all their features delivered. So we can look into the percentage of feature requests delivered to them. So this customer requested 18 features. We delivered 11 of them, which is 61%. And this customer asked for 15 features. We delivered 12 of them, which means it is covered 80%. So of course, the 80% feature delivery customer is a better customer because they have got most of what they wanted delivered to them. So that's the winner here. So that's how we get the ticketing tracking score done. We have got the peripheral score, which is compared of all of these combined. This is we have completed. Then let's look into the last two places, which is upsells and your gut feel, and we will be done in the next 5 minutes. So, okay, upsells are very important to track. A customer which shows good upsell possibility is a customer which is better for you because they can give you more money. And it's very important for customer success qualified leads to come through from this process. So how do we find them out? So here are two important pointers. One is an upsell readiness, and another is the upsell tailwind. And let me unpack them just in a minute. So what is upsell readiness? An upsell readiness is my customer has utilized most of my the limit, the thing that I've given to them, whatever total amount of they have things that I can use on my product, they have used and exhausted those limits. Say I have given this customer a limit of using 100 users and they have used 50 or 90 or 98. So we know that whatever was the quota that they could have used, are they nearing that particular milestone or not? That's license utilization. And we should also look into the growth. Is it growing, accelerating, going down, staying flat? So let's look into this. A successful upsell customer would have utilized their license fully. What does that mean? Imagine that you have given both these customers, C1 and C2, 100 user license to play with, or 100 gigabytes of data to play with, or 1,000 APIs credit, or let's say they can do 1,000 bookings per month, whatever is the number that you've given them. And these two customers are showing on an average of 67% license utilization and 53% license utilization over the last couple of weeks. So who is more ready for upsell? Of course, the person who is nearing the limit of 100% is more suitable for upsell. So we should definitely look into their entitlements that they had and look at the percentage of the entitlement they have exhausted to figure out who is nearing the upsell marker and therefore more ready for getting an upsell having in my business. Which is why in this case, the customer one, as you can see, has utilized 2/3 of the license compared to customer two who has utilized only half, is going to get a better score than somebody else. That's how we find this. But hang on a second. What about two customers who are both at 90% utilization? In that case, what do we do? Well, we should look into if their utilization of the product is accelerating, decelerating, or holding flat. So let us say here two examples that let us say we gave this customer entitlement, this product, we give entitlement with 100 users license. And week on week, we can see customer one go from 39 users to 72 users in last 4 weeks. And customer number two has gone from 32 users to 53 users. So both of them have increased their utilization, but you can very clearly see customer number one is way faster in the growth rate. They are showing a month-on-month growth rate of 85%, and customer number two is showing 66%. So therefore, you can safely say that this customer is a faster growing customer, and they are probably going to breach the utilization much more quickly. So we should look into both of these two growth rates. As you can see here, this is the growth rate of customer one, this goes to customer number two, and look into the one who were accelerating to reach the marker quickly. So combining both of these, we get the readiness score, which is the license utilized percentage and the speed at which they're consuming the license, so that we can know who will reach the marker first. The last part is upsell tailwind. Now, when we know that there is a possible upsell, when we go to sell to decision makers and influencers, are they going to back me or not? So for that, all we need to do is, the postulate is very simple. The postulate is a successful customer has more happy decision makers, and percentage of that is going to win. So for example, let's say a customer has 15 decision makers, only 3 of them are in happy and good health. How do we know this? Because every customer user of your product is a user which we have tracked based on product usage and outcomes, so we can track them as well. So now customer 1 has 15 decision makers, 3 of them are in good health, which means only 20% are in good health. Compared to that, customer number 2 has 10 decision makers, 8 of them in good health. So guess what? When you go to them to make an upsell, customer number 2 will give you a much better time than customer 1, where you might have to do some discounting and stuff. This is a very important CS qualified lead indicator, which we can give as well. And that's your health area indicator. And finally, the same thing for influencers. More happy influencers will give you better results, and that's how it goes. The last part is, the part of CS team's gut feel. And CS team gut feel is, you can score your customers on a score of, in a spectrum of 0 to 100, give them your score. The higher score obviously wins in this case. So now we have completed all the 40 KPIs, ladies and gentlemen. We have gone through product usage, which is basically your time on product, your number of pages visited and features adopted. Outcomes are stuff that you define that, okay, my customer must consume 100 GB of data, or must do 100 leads per month, or must do 100 bookings per day, or must consume 10 files per day. And you can see a percentage of that they're doing right now. So do you know that the value that they're supposed to deliver, they're getting it. That's your product usage piece. We've looked into ticketing piece with all the KPIs of ticket log rate, which is less tickets per number of hours, more tickets resolved, less priority 1 tickets, less users logging ticket. In emails and comms, we have seen that they should be communicating more frequently with you, and they should be in touch with you very, very recently. In payment subscription, we have seen that they should be paying you full, they should be paying you on time, and they should not be more than 90 days plus delinquencies as well. In feature requests, we have seen that they should be requesting less number of features compared to the number of features they're using, so that you know that they're a good fit for your customers, for your product. And finally, you should see that most of the features that they requested for is actually delivered. And of course, for upsell, we will see the readiness and the tailwind. Readiness we will figure out by figuring out, are they reaching the limitation of the total amount of entitlement given to them? And are they accelerating, decelerating, or staying flat? That gives readiness. And the tailwind tells you, are the influencer decision makers are going to back you or not? And CS team gut feel is obviously, your gut feel. So all of us put together, you get 1 score overall for 1 customer, which looks like this, and also for the users. Then you extrapolate for all the customers and users, you get all the customer data, and then you aggregate together, you get the whole story like this. And believe it or not, guys, this is exactly what we do in ZapScale, by the way. You have all these customers here on the left-hand side, as you can see. These customers are steadily using your product, how much money they're paying you, how far the renewal marker is, and what is this customer Freshdesk has 3 users. They're all doing good right now. This customer Freshdesk has a 64th percentile product usage score, 73rd percentile ticket usage score, 64th percentile feature requirement score, very good in billing, okay and decent in email comms, and the CS team gut feel also looks pretty fine. And if you go and detail into it, we can actually go and see the entire picture. For example, I can see that this particular customer, I can very easily see that for this customer, how are they looking like in health? We can very easily see that this particular customer's product usage trend looks pretty good. As you can see right here. In ticketing and billing, they also look pretty all right. We can see how many tickets they have resolved, asked for against how many hours of product usage, which puts them into what percentile. Similarly, we can see it for ticket resolution percentile, how many tickets are, were resolved compared to how many tickets they had logged. We can see how many priority 1 tickets came through. All tickets for this customer was priority 1, very, very poor, which means they're the bottommost customer in terms of this KPI. We can see how many users logged tickets and what that puts into them. We can see how many payments came full and on time. We can see how many payments 90 days plus overdue. We can see how many dues were cleared fully. We can go and see how many features they requested compared to how many features they were using, what puts them into what percentile among all the like customers. We can see how many features were delivered in terms of percentages concerned, which puts them into what percentile bracket. And we can also see, for example, here, how many comms came through and all of this. And by the way, there's also a full data point for it. Like you can see all the features this customer is using on your product in the heat map. This is how they're using it. We can go and check out all the tickets this customer has raised with me and click on any ticket and see the entire history of that ticket. So you can integrate with your ticketing solution. For feature requests, you can see all the feature requests of the customer that they have asked for. All the invoices customer has paid us and unpaid, whatever it is, you can see all of that. All the comms this customer has had with us, all the emails, all the intercom messages, Slack messages, we can see it right here. We can just see how many emails came through, all of this. And that basically gives you the story for this particular one customer's health. And then you can actually extrapolate that for all the customers. This is exactly the same view that is right here. That, hey, for customer number one, what is my product usage? What is my outcomes? What is my ticketing score, billing score, invoice score, and what is my upsell and handfill score? I can see the exactly the same structures right here itself for Freshdesk, for Salesforce, HubSpot, all my customers, we can see what is their overall health profile. And why is this overall health profile like this? It is because that this customer has the products, tickets, features, billing, emails, and CS gut feel all combined, gets you the entire health picture. So we have come to the end of this presentation, where we have gone through the entire picture of starting from scratch and going through all the 40 KPIs and the entire math and science behind it, to be able to get to a point where we can figure out the entire health. If you see, all these KPIs are backed by postulates. And if for any reason you don't agree with the postulate, you can absolutely go and switch them off. For example, if you don't agree that, time spent on your product is an important KPI, you can switch it off if you like. And if you want to create fresh KPIs for your product usage or stuff, you can absolutely add new custom KPIs and get the data from either a CSV upload or from, let's say, a Salesforce or HubSpot, or you can also send data to ZapScale through, through an API as well. And that will create your KPI. Let me give an example. For example, let's say I want to find out that my business is doing online KYCs, and I want to sample the data from an API. So here I've chosen the API example. You can choose the API name. You can choose inside the API what field you want to use. And you can choose inside that, okay, if this particular data is greater than 20%, 20 KYCs every day, it is good for me. And you can create this kind of KPIs very, very easily for your product. This is the outcomes we talked about. So these are all possible for us to do. The objective is for us to see the entire health of my customers. And every day I can see that which customer is doing good, bad, and ugly. I can see the HubSpot is overall doing poorly. Why it's doing poorly overall? Because out of 3 users of HubSpot on my product, 2 of them are in red, 1 of them is actually in yellow. And their product usage is poor. There is no email comms with them, it's gray. So therefore it is poor. I can actually go and individually look into HubSpot users and see, okay, out of all these HubSpot users, what features they are using and what features they are adopting. So I can look into not at a customer level, but also at a user level by doing the whole math and science. The end objective for us is to derive this view, so that Monday morning when you wake up, you can see out of all your customers who are doing good, bad, ugly, in what sense. And you can absolutely pinpoint the problem for every customer and every user mathematically and derive that entire view for you, which is so important for customer success, because whatever we do from here onwards, whatever activities we do, now, for example, I know for HubSpot, we don't ever do anything for ticketing or features or billing. We need to look into their product usage, and we need to look into why they're not communicating with us. So we need to write emails to them, reach out to them, do a meeting with them. To know why they're not doing good in product, we can go into HubSpot and go and check out their health KPIs for product usage and see what amount of time they've spent with me. We can see the amount of ways they're visiting with me, and we can see what features they're adopting with me by going into the product and depth into it and figuring out what is going wrong. So it is very important, therefore, what I'm suggesting is to do a full mathematical based objective analysis of your customers' health, so that you can therefore manage your customers better and derive the whole thing properly. And as you would have seen, I have tried to build it from the perspective of medical science. This is the pinnacle of healthcare in our generation. We are living longer and healthier for a longer period of time because medical science has done it for us. We're using the exact same semantics back here to make it scientific and mathematical. So I'm going to stop here and go back to our questions and answers that you may have. We have just shot the hour mark, but if you guys can hang around and ask a few questions, it will be absolutely brilliant. I'm happy to answer them. So, yeah, let's see.
Yeah, we have some questions in the Q&A box. If anyone has any more questions, please put them up in the Q&A box. Till then, I'll start taking questions. We have first one from Sachi Singhal. She asked that, how do you define customer health who has high usage and has raised more number of tickets? And there is another customer who has low usage and has raised less number of tickets. This could also infer that the customer who is actively using your product would have more queries.
Okay, so here is what medical science says. I'm going to go back to medical science. If your heart health is good and your lung health is poor, that could mean a lot of things. It could mean you are a smoker. It could mean you are not exercising. It could mean anything. What it means is irrelevant to a doctor. What it means to a doctor is that, okay, this guy's heart health is good. We don't need to do anything with their heart. Their lung health is poor. Let us put this person into lung health care management. In your case, Sachi, if you see, your customer has high usage. So usage is not a problem for his customer. They're using it right. Okay. The question is, why is this customer has high tickets? Now let's go and inspect into that. So I can absolutely assure that this customer's usage is not a problem for us, right? We don't need to go and train or talk to the customer to use it more and stuff like that. The usage is fine. They could be logging more tickets, and that is for you as a system to figure out why. And that is why I always say these systems are like an airline system. They tell you what is wrong, but it always needs a smart CSM and a smart pilot to fly you home. You need to talk to the CSM, this customer, and figure out, is it a training issue? Is it something that, or is it a data issue for which we are failing? So high usage is great, high tickets is not great. Compared to the other customer is low tickets and low usage. So low tickets is not a problem again, because they're not aggravated. Low usage is definitely the problem. So we need to go and talk to the customer to figure out why the usage is low. Is our product functionality not clear for them? Do they need more training? Is it that our functionalities are not enough? They need more than that. So the point is, this tells you what is wrong, and then you can choose which one to pick up to solve the problem. You will always have a great job, Sachi, because you will be able to answer for these things, what we can tell you with mathematics and KPIs. Great question, by the way. All right. Next question are all anonymous. Shivam, I can read them if you don't mind.
No problem. I will read them for you, Manasij.
Oh, go ahead.
There's another question from Kalpana. She asked that when looking at the number of new features requested by a customer, feature count, the category or quality of those requests should also be considered to compare.
Yes, absolutely, you should. You can add more KPIs in which you can say the request category, the request priority. You can absolutely add those as more KPIs into anywhere. You are absolutely right. I agree with you. This is a fabulous point. Same thing you should do it with features and for tickets, both. You should look at the priority. You should add KPIs that, a happy customer should log less severe tickets, or a happy customer should log less severe priority feature requests. That's an absolutely valid point. Please, whenever you make KPIs, make two things right. Make sure you have a postulate behind it. And the postulate is something that everyone in your business agrees, from your CXO down to the level of your support person. That means your postulate is correct. Second, make the postulate such that you can make a unit level comparison. Either it's in the base of 100 or it's in the base of something else, which makes two customers to be compared, and never make it like, hey, it should be more than 20 or less than 5 or less than 6. That is definitely not the way to go. That's not what medical science tells us, right? So let's follow these two things. Make a good postulate, make a unit-based calculation, and you will always be right in doing your job. So great question again, Kalpana. Thanks a lot.
All right. We'll take another question. This is anonymous. How much time would it take to set up these KPIs, monitor them, and tweak them, and then see which KPIs are best for us?
Yeah, brilliant question again. So if you want to do it in-house on your Excels and I don't know, whatever you're using, it will take you years. If you do it with ZapScale in our product, we have all of these KPIs pre-built. So as long as you connect your product, CRM, tickets, features, emails, and invoices, uh, it comes to you on the next morning itself with all these things put together. This is one of the major things why I decided to build a customer success product with pre-built KPIs so that you don't have to do the heavy lifting of the KPIs and stuff. You should do the next level thing which Sachi asked. That, okay, now we have a problem. How do I solve that? Then go to talk to the customer and do a root cause analysis. That is what you are great at. Let us split the work. Let me do the heavy lifting to give you the data points for you to work on. You be the pilot, you land the plane, you fly the plane, you talk to the customer, you figure out the root cause analysis, and you solve it, make more money for the business. It is a great question again. Again, I'm saying that if try to do all of this in Excel, you actually can't. It will take you fucking forever. Use a tool for it. It will be so much more easier for you. Okay.
All right, we'll take two more questions because we already run out of time. We have another anonymous question. How do you identify and address early warning signs of potential customer churn or dissatisfaction?
That is fabulous. Okay, so if you saw in this presentation and in the product, I was showing you that there's a churn possibility, which is low or high or mid or whatever it is. Here it is. Where it is coming from? It is coming from 26 model AI that we have built. This is not the right forum for me to explain that entire thing. We will do a follow-up webinar where I will actually walk you through the process of figuring out churn from KPIs, which we will do subsequently. And if you guys can attend that, it will be a great answer. It will answer that question brilliantly for you. Just to give you one quick pointer, churn is exactly equal to death in medical sciences. If you leave a KPI sliding downwards continuously and not treat it, it will actually lead to churn. So it's important to look at the KPIs trend lines and they see if they're trending down and trending poorly for you to figure out the churns or not. So there you are, guys. You can absolutely dial into my next webinar where we will be actually unpacking that entire thing for you guys. Thanks for the question again.
All right, we have our last question from Akanksha Bhadoria. She asks that, can we sort this data by company? Like how our product is using within a company, how our product is doing within a company, sorry.
Absolutely, you can do that. There's no problem. You can sort it by company, you can sort it by individual user, you can sort it by a group of users, you can sort it by segment of customers, you can do all of that things is perfectly fine. If this is the last question, then if you want to see more of ZapScale, guys, we're going to leave my meeting link here in the chat window. Please feel free to book a meeting with me. I will walk you through the product, show you what we can do here. If you want to get in touch with me, my LinkedIn will also be available for you to connect. Please do that. There is a ScaleTail WhatsApp group which you can absolutely join. Shivam, can you just forward the WhatsApp group link for people to join that if they want to? The ScaleTail WhatsApp group is where we do these informative webinars with tactical stuff. We don't want to delve into Gyan. We want to give very, very clear tactical, super clear pointers through which you can actually do your work nicely. Finally, you can also reach out to me via email. Shivam will put that also in for you. And like I at the very beginning mentioned, I've written a book about my last startup. The book is trending at 4.9 rating on Amazon right now out of 5. Very soon it will become a Netflix series. If you want to read that, it's a very fun book to read. Go ahead and do that as well. That will also be available in the chat window for you to do. Join it. So join us on ScaleTail WhatsApp group. It's a group where we keep on talking about these concepts and stuff. It's a group where people can ask questions. We will be happy to answer. Happy to come on a call or a discussion anytime with you guys. It's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Manasij, can I take one more question, please? I think.
Okay, sure. All right.
All right. Kalpana Verma has asked, do you give any suggestions or action plan also in case the health of a customer is really low?
Yes, we do, Kalpana. What we do is, and I could not show it in paucity of time. We have a whole concept of playbooks. What these playbooks do is they keep a lookout on things that are going wrong with your customers. For example, let us say your customer has become inactive, which means all the users of this customer are not logging into your platform. If that is the case, what we do is we create every Monday morning, we check that on all your customers. You can set up this audience here. You can set up the condition that, should check for 1 week of inactivity, 2 week or whatever. And if that is true, we will send out a task to your way. We will send out a message your way. And we will also send out an email which looks like this. Let me just quickly show an email to you, which is going to look like this. That, hey, these customers are inactive on your platform. And you can click directly from here to go to ZapScale to see the entire picture. And there are 65 such playbooks which cover for customer inactivity issues, for customer product usage being poor, their ticketing being poor, what if their communications are dropping, what if the billing and invoicing is dropping, there are too many feature requests, we can see a possible upsell coming up, we can see a possible renewal coming up, we can see a QBR is coming up, we can see a possible churn risk is coming up, or even the user health is poor. So they're like, all these are pre-built playbooks in which all we do is every specific day you want, you can be Monday, Tuesday, week start, month start, choose the customer base on which you want to test this particular condition. If the condition is true, it will automatically send out a task for you to have a look at. It will create a message for you. It will create an email for you so that you never forget about it, and also send out a Slack message for you as well. So these are the remedial steps that we suggest for all the problems that you may face. All right, hopefully I have answered all the questions, Shivam, or is there anything else that we have left with?
I think it's a good time to close the session, Manasij. I have given all the links in the chat box if you want to reach out to Manasij. If you want to have a chat, reach out to him on email. I'll just post the link again. If you want to book a meeting with Manasij, please feel free to do so as well. If you want to reach out to him on LinkedIn and drop a DM, please feel free to do so. Well, Manasij, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think it was a pleasure talking to you guys. What I think about customer success is that this is a very specialized skill. I think of you guys as pilots. You are great pilots. What you need is a great cockpit, something which tells you all about what's happening with your plane so that you can fly the plane and land all your customers safely. Mathematics and scientific systems are the only way to go. So please keep following us on ScaleTail, like our pages, because we do all these sessions. Happy to do a churn discussion sometimes where we can go and discuss all of this. Thanks a lot for staying so late with me, guys. We are way out of time and so sorry for that. Hope you enjoyed it and keep talking to us. It will be a pleasure. Thanks a lot, everybody.